All right, everyone. This is so exciting. Hello, my fellow Earth dwellers. It is National Gratitude Month. It's National Sunday Day, and of course, Happy Veterans Day. So that means make yourself a Sunday and be grateful for the contributions of our veterans. My dad was in the Air Force, so thanks, Dad. Welcome, one and all, to Skeptical Inquirer Presents. This is a series of live online presentations from experts who are devoted to advancing science over pseudoscience, media literacy over conspiracy theories, and critical thinking over magical thinking, but that might be a little different today. My name is Leanne Lord, and I am delighted to be your host. I am a stand-up comedian and author, and I also co-host the Point of Inquiry podcast. That's the latest episode, by the way, is Science Denial, Why It Happens, and What to Do About It. It's available wherever you get your podcasts. And if you haven't already, you know what I'm going to say, get yourself a subscription to Skeptical Inquirer magazine. The print edition gives you access to the digital subscription, which is more bang for your intellectual buck, as I like to say. And today, Skeptical Inquirer Presents is a very special event that I think will be truly magical for all of us. I get to have a conversation with not one, but two folks. Well, three, including you, because at the bottom of your screen, you'll see there's a little Q&A icon, and that's the place for you to join in and share your comments and pose your questions. And if you miss any of this special event today, it is being recorded and will be available on skepticalinquirer.org. And you guys know me. I've been to quite a few secular conferences, and I've been intrigued by the community's fascination with magic, magicians, and illusionists. And so it is quite fitting that we have two of the authors of David Copperfield's A History of Magic. The first is a member of the secular family who's been described by Scientific American as one of the most interesting and innovative experimental psychologists in the world today. His books, including The Luck Factor, 59 Seconds, and Paranormality, have sold over 3 million copies. On Sunday, chose him as one of the top 100 people who make Britain a better place to live. I'm not sure, you guys, but I think that means he outranks the Queen. He's a member of the Inner Magic Circle, director of the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which as a stand-up comedian, I am hoping to attend one day. And he has created psychology-based YouTube videos that have attracted over 500 million views. Now, not many people get to be called a living legend. I mean, well, that's what they call me at the local grocery store, but that also means that I'm not allowed to go back there. But our esteemed co-author is a true living legend and has been called the greatest magician in the world. He's the first living illusionist to be honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He was knighted by the French government, and post-revolution, I didn't know France did that sort of thing, but bucket list. He has been named Magician of the Century and Magician of the Millennium. His face graces the postage stamps of 6 different countries, making him the only living magician to receive this honor. He's won over 21 Emmy Awards for his groundbreaking television specials. Year after year, he just continues to tour sold-out arenas throughout the world. I mean, he holds 11 Guinness World Records and has sold more tickets than any other solo entertainer in history, with ticket sales in the billions, like more than Frank Sinatra, more than Michael Jackson, more than Elvis, certainly more than me. And if that sounds impossible, he's built a reputation on making the impossible look easy. He single-handedly redefined his art and remains the most emulated illusionist in the history of magic. And with that, it is my honor to welcome both Richard Wiseman and the one and only David Copperfield.
Thank you. And we, both of us, can't live up to any of that introduction. A couple of dudes, one from England, one from New Jersey, trying to get it right.
Wow. Okay. Listen, we'll stop there. That was the introduction, and thanks for coming,
Good night,
everybody.
everybody. Good night.
That
You're
was
lucky
amazing.
Wiseman will show you his tube trick.
I
You're
will.
lucky.
Oh, what?
Yes.
What? We're gonna open with that?
Don't
I
open
didn't
it. No,
know.
save it.
We
Okay,
will save
okay.
it. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, it's not a closer either. But when you feel a dip in the conversation shortly after I've given an answer, that's the time to go
Okay.
with the tube trick. Yeah. David has seen it before, and he's always been very kind in his reactions. But I have it here, and I am prepared to inflict it on David and yourself one more time.
You know, I don't threaten me with a good time, man. That's totally what I'm here for. But you guys, first of all, everybody, David Copperfield's History of Magic is out. It came out just before Halloween, which was very fitting, I think. And I am very lucky enough to be in possession of a copy. Now, I've been working out. I've been doing some crunches and some bell work. It got my muscles up so I could lift this beautiful book. And I also say this, my dad was a printer, so I am appreciating even the quality of the paper. It's like, this is smooth. This is so I have to ask you guys, what brought this collaboration about? How did you? I know it's a simple question, but I think it's important.
No, it's a good story. I will start. I created this museum many years ago, and it's been growing and growing during COVID. COVID is horrible, but it did provide a lot of time for people to write scripts and all kinds of things. We did, I kept my crew employed, and we made this even larger. We used the year to build the library, which is featured in the book. That's why this place exists, which is filled with stories that are really amazing. It's not about the stuff, it's about the stories. But the way the book started specifically is a Wiseman tale. Wiseman tale. How do you like that? And he's going to tell you about what it's really his idea. I think it's his idea, the book. Go for it.
Thank you, David. Well, it actually is to do with skepticism as well. I was at a CFI convention in Vegas, and Massimo Polidoro was there, an Italian skeptic. And Massimo said, "Should we go and see David's show?" And we went along, an astonishing show. And David afterwards said, "Oh, should we have a chat?" And we had a chat. And he said, "Do you want to come and look around the museum tomorrow?" So we got this wonderful guided tour of this astonishing space that we'll probably talk about in detail later on. And during that, I thought, well, it is an incredible secret museum. And David shows people around, gives personal tours to small groups, and it can only be small groups because there's a lot of secrecy embedded in that space. Okay. And so my idea was to come up with a book that reflected the beautiful kind of elegance of the museum, that gave readers a personal tour through that space. And so we chose some of our favorite exhibits, and that's what makes up the book. So that's the story. It was the roots of it at that skeptical conference all those 3 or 4 years ago in Vegas.
Fantastic. I love it. And I when I saw that the museum was private, it's like, I think it was in the introduction. It's like, it's here, you turn left and then it's middle of the desert. I'm like, wait a minute, I have specific instructions to get here, but I can't just show up and ring the bell. And thank you for explaining, because that was going to be one of my questions. Why isn't it open to the public? But like you said, it can't be. Yes.
We do exhibitions outside of the museum. We do share. Okay. We take objects and videos and all that, and take it to museums around the world. So we do kind of mini exhibits. So we do share it in that way. Now we can share with everybody. With the book, it really is a way of being immersed into it. The photographs by Homer Lewag, beautifully done, and double page spreads. You can see and feel what it is. But it's about the stories of these women and men who did magic, that really are the shoulders on who I stand upon. And
it's beautifully done. And I mentioned to Richard, we had a chance to chat the other day. You can't put every single thing or every single person in the book. You guys would still be writing this book, and I because I forgive me, magic is not my wheelhouse. I mean, I make money disappear quite a lot, but not not true magic. And I had to do a little research, and I had come across the first African American magician, Richard Potter, which, by the way, you guys, is no relation to Harry Potter, at least not that I know of.
But actually,
Richard,
he's the first famous American magician was
like the
African American. First known magician was African American. Was a former slave, and horrible existence. But then he was the first magician that was and famous in America.
Wow! And do you have any of his? Because I love what you just said, and I'm going to walk away with that term. If I walk away with nothing else, that it's not about the stuff. It's about the stories. Do you have any of his stuff?
Yes, I just obtained it, actually. Fortunately, it was after the book was written, but I just got amazing items that had really had belonged to me, but I finally had them returned to me. And one is a ticket to a Richard Potter performance. That's pretty amazing.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. That's really great. And listen, not to put more work on you, but I don't think this has to be a standalone book, not with all the amazing stuff that you have there. I'm seeing a series, just putting it out there, because
never know.
There are a lot of stories and about people that we don't know. I mean, I got to flip through the book, and of course, as a woman, I'm like, okay, where are the chicks? And I loved the Queen of Magic's dress. Like, are you guys selling that at the gift shop in multiple sizes?
Making reproductions. Richard's been wearing it in his spare time, but that's another story.
Oh, I figured, in order for the dress to keep its shape. Yeah, I get that completely.
Yeah. No, I think I'm joking. But there's many women in magic, and more so now. There's like incredible amount of very, very talented women magicians who are doing extremely well and really setting a new mark. But that was the seed of that were people like Talma and Adelaide Herman you talked about, and Del O'Dell, all the people that and it's I'm really happy that that's happening today.
We should say in the UK, the first female president of the Magic Circle over here. So things are changing, albeit slowly. But the person you're talking about there, Adelaide Herman, is astonishing. She was married to a very famous magician, Alexander Herman. He passed away, and she had this incredible solo career, and it was so dangerous. I mean, she's sort of catching bullets in her bare hands, being fired from a cannon. Remarkable life. So yeah, we're delighted to be able to tell that life in the book.
Yeah, thank you. Because these are just, I'm not sure, of folks who are listening, if you're real magic fans, these names will sound familiar to you, but, for some, this might be a true introduction, and particularly of folks that they would not have known, prior to this book or prior to visiting your museum or prior to having an interest in. And I will say, for me, that is certainly the case. Like Odell, Richard, you and I talked about her. We have to, David, can you talk about her? Because I think she is fascinating. Whether you're in magic or entertainment, if you work for yourself, just the lesson of her life. Can you talk about Odell a little bit for me?
Del O'Dell was like everybody in the book, we're survivors.
Yeah.
We're all survivors. We're all people that came from usually low income backgrounds, and normally trying to fight your way to succeed. I think everyone is like that. Which is any silver spoon magicians in the book?
I don't think so. I mean, magic does have this astonishing history of people coming from very modest backgrounds, Houdini, Malini, Adelaide Herman, and really using magic to transform themselves. So I think it's great. And Del O'Dell, my goodness, this was somebody in the 50s who's just out there working every single day, all these different places, just kind of grinding out a living and doing amazing self-promotion as well. So yeah, she's a very kind of inspirational figure, I think.
Yeah, it just shows that, like as a stand-up, you have to tell me how a stand-up is the skeptical person. I want to know that story, but if there's
feel like that's a different show. Yeah. I tell people all the time, I'm not a skeptic comic. I'm a comic who happens to be a skeptic and, or a humanist. And I sort of casually came into the community and they're like, oh, you're funny. You should perform on our conference. I'm like, okay, hey, you're funny. You should host Skeptical Inquirer Presents. Like, okay. So I kind of just kept showing up.
Have you always been skeptical? Because some people have this kind of past of being quite believerish and then suddenly finding the light, as I would phrase it. But
oh my goodness, how did this turn? How are you guys interviewing me? How did this happen? But no, I was Catholic. I was raised Catholic, which is by all accounts the way out, quite frankly. That's what happens. So I came to it after Catholic school as well. Like, yes. But Richard, you've got me now on a little bit of a turn here, because I mentioned at the outset, like I was surprised, like how many skeptics, how many organizations do these events and they bring in magicians. They love it, love it, love it. What is that connection? Because I would think these really smart people will be like, oh, I don't want to be fooled. I don't want any magic. And that's exactly what they want. I guess they're not being deceived. Maybe. Is that the difference? Like, what's that background?
Well, I mean, magicians, there's this sort of phrase that they describe themselves as honest deceivers, because you go along to David's show and it's illusions you're looking at. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a comfortable position for most folks. Of course, there is sort of the dark side of magic where you can take some of those sorts of illusions and use them to control people and influence people and persuade them that you've got powers that you don't have. In terms of the skeptic conferences, and you are right, I mean, there's always a magic performance of some sort going on. I guess they enjoy the puzzle solving aspect of it, because what magicians have to do is so interesting psychologically. They don't have to follow you in the moment, but when you go away and talk about it with your friends, you can't figure it out then either. So I think they enjoy that. And maybe, it kind of gives them that sense of wonder and mystery that you don't get from paranormal experiences because you're a skeptic. I don't know, David, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I think that's right. I'm just thinking about your, the whole idea of why skepticism works and how it relates to me. You talk about your religious background. I am an interesting, dichotomy of this stuff. I, of course, because I'm a magician, because I invent things and I create things, I've got to know how things work. And I need to know the logical form of it. So in that sense, I'm a skeptic, and I will, call, I'll be able to see when something's not right. I'm able to see that. I'm able to see something's saying something is something, but it really is not something. So in that case, I fit into this community. There's a spiritual side of me that gets great comfort knowing, thinking that there is something else out there. I do like that. I enjoy that peace that it gets, even though it goes against the skeptic in me. I know that. So I kind of want, I want every single thing on the menu here. I want to be able to understand, to grow. In order for me to grow as an artist, as an inventor, as a creator, I have to know, and I have to know what reality is. But there's part of me that also enjoys kind of believing in things that, in God. I think there's part of me that knows maybe it doesn't really logically pan out. I do like the feeling of it. So there you go. That's me.
I thank you for sharing that. And I think, Richard, what ties that together is that sense of wonder. We do want to feel that. I know one of our guests was Sasha Sagan, and her book about, ritual and appreciating those things. And, being a skeptic does not mean that you don't appreciate that or want that. And I think maybe that is what magic brings, and what that gives us.
And also it works because in our heads, we can represent the impossible. We can go along to David's show, and in your head, you can believe a huge spaceship appears right in front of you. And I think the fact that we can do that, magicians exploit that cognitive ability we have. The reason we have it is because sometimes we can imagine impossible things or seemingly impossible things and make them happen. In terms of getting to the moon, the Apollo missions, it was pretty much impossible, but we did it. And I think it's why magic is a double-edged sword. It gives us the ability to imagine something impossible and then imagine ways of making it possible. I think that's a very unique and valuable mindset. And it's what magicians do all the time. Maybe that's why skeptics like it as well.
I think, personally, there's a great value in prototyping the future, great value in seeing things that are going to be possible in the near future, hopefully nearer future. In the book, we talk about Georges Méliès. If you saw the movie Hugo, you'd know about him. He's one of the fathers of modern cinema, and took the magic trick of a movie, which was a train coming at you. And that was it. That was the whole movie was a train coming, and the audience go, whoa. And that was the illusion was that, or seeing a pastoral scene, or, and the movies were that. And Méliès took that and told stories with it, and actually had a trip to the moon, showed a trip to the moon. And I think seeing that helped us to maybe work it out. You know how rockets worked at the time? Rockets existed, but to be able to see that was a possible solution to actually doing it was amazing. And 70 years later, less than 70 years later, we actually landed on the moon, which is really remarkable. I like to think that the magician, somebody in my world, Méliès, seeing and visualizing landing on the moon in a movie helped to make it happen for real. In my show, I do a lot of things that I know have technology that I won't be able to use someday, because my secrets will be, shown. We have things in the museum, for example, a talking Buddha. I don't know if you can see it behind me, the Buddha up there. And it was a speaker, just a speaker in a clay paper mache Buddha. And the effect, and nobody knew about speakers. Nobody knew that technology existed. And you'd select a card, 7 of spades. Nobody would know. Spectator would listen to the Buddha, and the Buddha would go, 7 of spades. Well, imagine not knowing about speakers and having the Buddha. People would freak out,
Yeah.
And the skeptics would go, and if they knew about technology, they'd work it out.
Right.
But that technology not being public yet became some of this. You could start a religion with that kind of thing, and knowing that technology existed. So it's lots of examples of that. In my show, I'm using technology that, again, 5 years from now, I won't be able to use, inventing new technology that will hopefully be able to use in society. But I get to use it now, to make people go, wow. And there's a need of an audience, even skeptics, to watch something and dream a little bit. They like it. I think that the skeptical people like it. Some have their arms crossed and they're going, I'm trying to work it. They're predisposed to do that. And my goal by the end of the a half hour into it, hopefully they kind of relax and got to go with it and let it wash over them, And
no, I'm gonna say you're being modest. 3 minutes. You said 30. Nah, 3 minutes. they're pulled in.
Check it out. We'll see.
I haven't been to Vegas in a minute, and that would be awesome and a reason to go.
Place for you to work.
Yes, you're raising your hand like it's Catholic school. Very nice.
I'm sorry. I put my little hand
Richard,
up here.
I'm going to call on you. Yes, there you go.
I'm reflecting on that skeptical argument, and also I think skeptics like optical illusions as well. I think it's the same thing, which is that it symbolizes that we can get things wrong. We can be very confident, but very wrong. So we can go and see something paranormal and trip ourselves up and think it's genuine, in the same way as when you watch magic, you do that, and when you experience an optical illusion. And in fact, in the book, we have this 16th century manual of sleight of hand, Scott's discovery of witchcraft. That's one of the first skeptical texts. And he is saying, look, there's all these people being accused of witchcraft. Don't be so certain, because magicians can trip you up, and maybe you got it wrong about the witches as well. And in doing so, he describes and presents us with the first English language description of how to perform magic. So there's always been these links between skeptical thinking and magic. And some great magicians have been skeptics: Ray Hyman, Jerry Andrus, these people that, wonderful contributions to both skepticism and magic.
Can I say something? Catholic
of course
school.
You can. This is all for you. What? Yes.
I was bar mitzvahed, but it's my Catholic school move.
Gotcha.
You've been talking about my show. You should go and watch Richard's Quirkology website and his things, because you'll see all the skeptics should check this out. Quirkology.com. What is it, Richard?
Yes, so just put Quirkology into YouTube. That'll do it. Yes.
Okay.
And you'll get Richard showing why we're fooled. why are we amazed? How is our perception where you're convinced something is a certain way, but then you're optically amazed or visually amazed, perspective, all those things that use the concepts and precepts. If we're really smart, the smarter you are, the easier you are to amaze, because we have the ability to use those things of every piece of education that mankind has and take that education and turn it around to make it wondrous. If, a kid is the hardest people to fool is the kids, because they don't have all that stuff that we can use. Richard, speak on that. But anyway, what I'm saying is my plug for Richard is watch that, because everything you're talking about is that. He shows why. And you'll have the feeling, the nice thing about the quirkology stuff is that you have the feeling of, wow. And then you understand, he kind of shows why. And you go, okay, I understand why I think this way. I'm not dumb. I'm not stupid. I'm not, I wasn't tricked. I was like, my intelligence was used to make me amazed. And that's really, really important. In my show, I don't try to trick them. I don't try to fool them. I really try to involve them. I try to make them part of the show. And it's not about, the illusion has to be well done, but it's not a better than you effect. It is, I'm going to show you something really cool, and someday you'll understand why. But for the meantime, I'm going to try to tap into those feelings that you really need to have more in your life to be inspired in that way.
I like that. I'm actually one of those weirdos. I don't want to know how the trick is done.
It's not weird. We love you. We love you. I
just want to be amazed and walk away with that feeling.
Yeah, well, we love you. And half, you fall into half of the audience. Half of the audience
really
like that.
Okay.
Yes. And I think you're the smarter ones, actually.
Well, there's a time to figure stuff out, like my taxes, and there's a time to be amazed. Just be amazed. We don't get a lot of that in adulthood. You grow up and life gets serious really quick. And no, I like the wonder. I like the fun.
I like what you just said. There's a time to be amazed and time to know every detail. I'm going to use that.
Please. Ooh, I feel so good.
Talking of which, is this a good moment to demonstrate the tube illusion?
I don't see why not.
Well, you will do in a few moments.
I see why not.
Uh-oh.
There is never a good moment to demonstrate the tube. Hold on a second, I have to move. Right, here we go. Now, this is, I'm a huge fan of magic, which perhaps isn't quite as strong as it should be. Magicians rather like that. And this certainly falls into that category. So don't get your hopes up. That's all I'm saying.
Expectations are low. I'm an American.
Wherever the bar is, just lower it by about another 10 feet. And then I'm actually quite close to the camera here. Right, now, the first time I performed this, I got it the wrong way round in front of David. And so that was embarrassing. But I've now rehearsed it. There we are, a perfectly empty tube. Here we are, there we are. Perfectly empty tube. Okay. Nothing suspicious about that at all. Here we go. Brace yourself. That's something, isn't it?
Aren't you supposed to say ta-da?
David, this stuff is harder than it looks.
Except for that.
Sorry, that was...
That's the best I've got.
And to be true to what I just said, I'm not going to ask you how you did that.
Well, yeah, that's for a different reason, though, isn't it? I mean, that's
yes, it is
indifference, and there's no need either. But,
no, I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
You can tell that one of us is a legendary magician, and the other one isn't.
He's a legend.
I love the diplomacy of that. I've got not a ton of, but I do have some questions here. And actually this kind of refers back to something that we were just talking about. And I don't know if this is possible to quantify this, but some of the few folks have been wondering about what percentage, I don't know if you can do that, of magicians get into magic to debunk charlatans or who are skeptics.
Richard?
12.5.
Wow. Really?
I just made that up. It's got no.
Oh, okay. I was about to say I'm not seeing a chart or a graph here. So
no.
I don't think it existed as a back in Houdini's time. It existed because there was so prevalent of people bilking money out of people out of their money because spiritualism was a big thing, back then. And the war was over. A lot of, dead husbands, and they'd get money from the wives because they were having fake seances. The magicians were trying to, sometimes as a publicity stunt, but as a thing. But some people were sincere about it, to try to stop it from happening, to stop false magic from happening. Then there was, my new friend is Uri Geller. Uri Geller is my pal now, but back in the 70s, he was world famous for bending spoons and so forth. And of course, the James Randys and a lot of magicians debunked him because he's a wonderful magician. That's it. Doesn't have real powers, but he got tons of publicity because people believed he was real. And who he was fooling was scientists, really smart scientists. He got a lot of street cred because he can go into places that had people that should know better, but he was actually using their knowledge to hornswoggle them. But he's a nice guy. Richard, what do you want to say about that thing?
Yeah, I think, there's always that big overlap. And Houdini, the last third of his stage show was exposing psychics, and he would go around into each town, undercover investigators and so on. And I've done some of that work. Also, I've staged quite a lot of fake Victorian seances, darkroom seances, which is so much fun. And we use Victorian methods to make luminous objects move around and so on. And you know what? They still fool a modern day audience. And so that speaks to something about, we like to think we're a lot more sophisticated than those Victorians, but people put people into a totally darkened room, have that sense of spookiness, and suddenly people kind of get fooled by these very old methods. So it's a fascinating area, the psychology of belief, the psychology of the fake psychic. Yes, what I did my PhD on. So yeah, fascinated by it.
Awesome. And just to let folks in the audience know, in case you haven't peeked at the chat, our producer Mark was kind enough to drop the link for Quirkology. If you guys want to grab that and have a look later, for sure. Now, you mentioned Houdini? Is he maybe one of the most famous magicians who promoted critical thinking and skepticism? Like he would be the most well known, or?
I would have said so. I would have thought so. And David has this astonishing collection of Houdini apparatus and letters. And I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit, David.
Yeah, I think to answer your question, it's Houdini, it's James Randi. Spent a lot of time debunking psychics and people who were, listening to stuff in their ear, and from the people backstage, with radio technology. And all the Peter Popoffs. Is he still alive, Peter Popoff?
I believe he is. I think so.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you guys covered people like that. But Houdini's the most famous name as an escape artist and this area. Yeah, I did a thing with spiritualism in my show, more of a theatrical thing. But he's using some of the same techniques that Richard's talking about. Using things to make ghosts look real. So that's worth a Google. It's called, what is it called? Gosh, one of my specials, it was Unexplained Forces. Yeah, Unexplained Forces. I floated tables, and I had the audience float tables, and then ghosts would be around the theater. But what Richard did was very, very much exactly what would happen in a one-on-one house setting, where people would bring back the dead. And of course, none of it's real. It's all illusion, but if presented as real.
And it's effects that people want to believe. So if a magician produces an illusion that people really want to believe, they're not likely to go searching for the method. And of course, if you want to get in touch with a loved one who's recently passed away, where you want to believe that that's the case. And so I've been to seances where the trickery is absolutely terrible, but the people are convinced because they just don't want to look for it. It's a very different frame to a magic show.
Yes.
Arthur Conan Doyle, famous writer, his wife was a spiritualist, and they kind of had a love-hate relationship with Houdini because the wife, I'm not sure she believed in it, but she was, convinced herself that she could do it. And and did it. And so there was kind of a interesting tension between Conan Doyle and Houdini back in the day.
Mm. I think you're absolutely right. It says that when you have a self-selected audience that wants to believe, which kind of explains dating apps. We want to believe. That's why we keep doing it, boys and girls. I do want to get into some of these Q&As that folks have been gracious enough to pop in here, and from Elaine Jones, and she's echoing quite a few folks here. She says, Mr. Copperfield, do you have a portrait aging in an attic somewhere? You haven't aged at all. So yes, I'm hitting you with the hard-hitting questions, sir. For sure.
Years ago, I'll give you my secret, okay? And everybody's able to do the same secret. Years ago, I saw old Hollywood documentary pictures of a ring light, a big ring light that they would use as actresses would get older and older. And I said, this is 20 years ago, I saw this. And I said, I'm going to use it on my TV specials, a ring light. I was going to put a light around the camera. And we did it. Every TV special I did, I had lights around the camera, and and it did its thing. Now, because of COVID, because of all the Zoomy world that we live in now, you can buy these ring lights, and that's my secret.
Wow. I will say though, I also enjoy that secret, but it's really awkward when you're walking around outside with a ring light. People look at you like you're strange.
I've tried. I've tried.
I think you can get away with it more than
one
me.
Good angle. One good angle.
Oh, I have my angle when I take pictures. Like I can't do it this side. Yeah. I do this side.
One shot.
Only entertainment people know this. Jay Tarnoff wants to know, he said, Dr. Wiseman and Mr. Sir Copperfield. I love the formality here. Wonderful new book. I enjoyed every page. And are there any specific items? Hold on, the page just jumped here. Are there any specific items that you do not yet have in the museum that you would like to include in the collection?
They are a couple things that are in collections that, a couple things that don't exist, but mostly pretty good, actually. We have amazing stuff, things that I could never dream of having. There's one, I fly in my show. I used to fly in my show all around the place with women in my arms and like Lois Lane. And
it sounds like a great first date. Just putting it out there. Okay, good.
And it was, I wish I still did it. And it wouldn't exist, that flying illusion wouldn't exist if it weren't for levitations that came before. Mm-hmm. And levitations wouldn't exist if it weren't for suspensions. And the difference is a levitation, as you move around, or it goes up and down. Suspension, you just kind of suspended midair, one position. And the first suspension, and pretty much the first illusion of my kind, was Robert Houdin's ethereal levitation. Richard, tell why it's called ethereal levitation.
Again, it's this relationship with science. So ether was around. They discovered this chemical knocked people out during operations. And what Robert Houdin did, sort of the father of modern stage magic, French magician, was to use it as kind of part of the effect. And so the idea was he'd bring his son on stage, place a kind of broomstick under his son's arm, wave some ether under his nose, and this made him lighter than air. And so he could lift his son up and his son would remain suspended. Now that effect, that kind of storyline isn't what was happening at all. But that was what the audience kind of bought into because they'd heard of this mysterious new substance.
Right, correct. And 20 years ago, the technology, it wasn't ether at all, had anything to do with it. That was the framework, the umbrella around it. But the ether had nothing to do with it. It was technology that made it work. And that piece of technology was put into my hands 20 years ago, and I began to cry because it was the beginning of everything, in my own world. It's like, wow. And now 20 years pass, I possess that now. So it's amazing that I now in this museum have that thing that started all of this magic stuff. And that begat levitations, begat this, and eventually became, in my invention, it's the flying part of it. And I flew in a plexiglass box and through hoops and with a girl on my arm. So it's pretty cool.
And we should say that the museum is is immense. There's tens, if not hundreds of thousands of items there. And Homan did an astonishing job with the photographs. It's a big glossy book that reflects the sort of how beautiful the museum is. So I think we're very proud of that. And David Britland is our co-author on it, who also another magician. It's in terms of additional items to the museum, I think the only one that I would suggest.
I agree.
Thank you.
I just assumed it was on loan to you for the benefit of this interview.
That's right. I mean, it's a unique piece, and
yes,
yes.
I haven't seen that done anywhere else.
I don't understand why. I don't understand why.
And it's called, the name of that effect is called the Botania.
Yes.
Ooh, it actually has an official name.
Very interesting. Botania. Yes. And the bigger one is called a giant Botania.
When I perform it, people call it lots of things, but not that.
Wow. Do you open class with that? Your first day, first semester? Do you do the?
Not the first day.
That's right. That's
the entire day. And yeah, I mean, it's a lot harder than it looks, which in itself is quite an achievement. Yeah. Mainly based on magnets. I don't want to give too much away.
Yeah. Don't give away your secrets. No. Now, speaking of things that you guys have. Oh, I'm sorry. I saw the finger. What do you need?
I'm just thinking, the beauty of all this, I hope that the people that are there to treat everything as a puzzle will still appreciate how well it's done. I think that it would be okay, all the people with their arms crossed, if they keep them crossed and are like working things out, I hope they, by the end, have an appreciation for the effort to create that thing. Knowledge is the best thing. I mean, knowledge is great. Knowledge is so important for us to move forward. But I think the appreciation for how things are crafted and why it's amazing to most people is an important thing. And I think in all of skepticism, why we are fooled by it and how we're led on and how society's led on, is, I think, reflected in what you said before. We want to believe in stuff like that. There's some of us that really want and need to believe in that dating app, like you were saying, or in bringing back or bringing back speaking to somebody you didn't say what you needed to. And that's all I want to say.
Thank you. There's so many questions, and I should have said this before. We won't get to all of them. I will get to as many of them as possible. I've been trying to weave them in to our conversation, and quite a few folks are asking if illusions are tricks or mostly physical skill. I don't.
It's both. Richard's going to continue, but it's both. There's many kinds of magic. I'm going to not name it. There's physical magic, mechanical apparatus, like the beautiful Botania that was presented today. There's actually versions of that illusion, seriously speaking, which are actually will amaze you. Actually, there's actually versions that are constructed a bit better than that, but that falls into the category of mechanics to make things work, technology that makes things happen. Then there is no technology, pure sleight of hand kind of magic, where it's skill and technique and borrowed objects. Then there's mental magic. We're using sometimes math, sometimes just using people's psychology to make it happen. What am I forgetting about, Richard? What categories do we have?
I think that's right. I mean, to answer the question, yes, magic involves a lot of hard work. Is the bottom line. That there's technology there. There's sleight of hand. There's mind reading, which we can try now, if you like. So, Leanne, if you name any playing card at all, don't make it an obvious one.
Oh wow, Queen of Diamonds would be obvious for me, wouldn't
it?
Oh darn it. Okay, Seven of Spades.
Oh, amazing. So that's just an example of reading someone's mind.
Hold on, I've got a version. Hold on. Look for a deck of cards there. I'm going to try that right now. Any deck of cards.
This is very exciting.
Oh my God! I know it is.
Let me try this again. Let me try this again. Hold on.
I didn't know. I didn't know this would be such a. This is gonna be such a. This is a treat. I'm already treated. Go. Okay.
Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I want you to think of any card in the deck.
Okay.
Say it out loud.
9 of clubs.
This is really, really amazing.
Is it?
Not only is it the 9 of clubs, but it's magically changed to the 7 of spades.
Oh my gosh, can I PayPal you guys? Because I am entertained and delighted.
See, on the show today, we did the giant Britannia. And we did
that's right. We're redefining magic, but not in a good way.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, the bottom line
Yes.
is you can learn the secret of pretty much any magic illusion probably in 30 seconds, and you can spend the rest of your life learning how to do it properly. It's one of those things where, you know, the how you do it is normally reasonably straightforward. Doing what David does every night is a completely different thing. And that's where you see the real skill. It's not in the method, it's in the presentation. And that's the really tricky bit, as I've brilliantly demonstrated tonight.
I feel like that's the metaphor for almost everything in life.
Yeah.
There's your basic skill and those folks that just excel and make it, you know, grand art. I did not know this, but again, there's so much I don't know because life is long and there's a lot to know. Robert Fisher said Paul Kurtz raised the possibility that the historical Jesus was a magician. Is that true? I went to Catholic school. That was never covered. Is that a thing?
I think quite a few people have raised that. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, Jesus never did the Britannia trick.
No, he didn't. You know, and that would have been so New Testament.
He could have.
Maybe that was one of the books that didn't make it.
He could have, but it would have been, you know, not discussed. Maybe they just passed over it. When it came to writing the scriptures, they left, you know, things are left out.
That's right.
And I guess,
and lo, a tube was shown empty, but not very convincingly.
And I guess comparatively, the wine thing might have been, I don't know, slightly better. I don't know.
Yeah, slightly better. Yeah, he's got into the local magic club with that one.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I would have preferred if he could have changed water into bourbon, because now we're talking.
Different distillery.
A very basic question, Adolfo Sanchez. Thank you. It would be great if you could tell us about your creative and intellectual process when creating a new illusion, because it's just not easy, is it?
No, I mean, we talk about this in the book a lot. And
yes.
The fact that things that are very, you know, easy, like they look effortless. There's a lot of work that goes into effortless. Not unlike a dancer, like Fred Astaire, you know, he was just a huffer, he says. There's a lot of, you know, broken toes and bleeding feet to make that happen. And then you make it effortless. Not unlike an opera singer, you know, maybe an opera singer looks like hard work, but people that do things effortlessly, usually there's a lot behind it. And magic, I invent a lot of technology, a lot of new magic that exists, and it doesn't, you know, look like it's invented. It looks like if it's doing it right, it's supposed to look miraculous and effortless. My process, it comes in two ways. Sometimes the effect comes first, and sometimes the method comes first. For example, it's like asking a songwriter what comes first, the music or the lyrics. And the real answer is it depends. Unless it's Elton John. Elton John always gets the lyrics from Bernie Taupin and then writes and musicalizes it. But most songwriters and magicians will have two ways. You know, you'll have, for me, it happens both ways. I'll have an effect that I want to do. I want to vanish the Statue of Liberty. And then I think, okay, how can I do that? Here's all the different possibilities, and let's keep working. And I have collaborators and people that make suggestions, and then we end up with a result. A lot of times I'll have a new piece of technology that I see, a piece of technology that nobody knows about, or something that I could disguise. And that piece of technology would come first, and I'll say, I know I can take that piece of technology and make something magical with it. I can see it as an effect. So it works both ways for me. Then on top of that is what Richard was talking about, which is performance, it's story. You know, for me, it's all about the story, all about, you know, what the audience perceives, and music and lighting, all the things that I normally add to the magic I do. And that's it. So that's my version. What do you think, Richard?
I think that's right. I mean, what I find interesting, I don't create magic per se, but that it's the second guessing of whether it will fool an audience, because it needs to do that. And a bit like a joke, you might have a joke and you're like, this is going to be the funniest joke, and you go out and it just dies. And then another line that you don't think is funny is suddenly hilarious.
Yes.
We've all been there. Me more with the first one. But magicians have to do that. They have to get into the heads of audience members to know what's going to fly and what's not going to. And that requires, again, cognitive skills. How do they think? How do they see the world? What assumptions are they making? And I find that fascinating, that ability to get into somebody else's head. Again, it's a very, very human ability. It's what magicians do naturally and do all the time.
Richard called me and he says, I've got an idea for an illusion. I'm not going to blow what it is, but it's a technique of a mind reading effect. With a book, I'll say, with a book. So she says, she's on the phone. I'm not sure it's going to work, but it's an idea that seems to be new, you know? And I said, well, let's call our friend Max Maven, because he'll know if anything like that existed before. So he called our friend Max, and Max said, no, it is new. And then Richard's going, I hope this works. I'm not sure it's going to work. You know, the audience, my famous quote is, the audience votes, right? The audience vote. They'll tell you exactly what's going to work or not going to work. And they are right every time, you know, unless you're a poet and you don't care, you know, you're going to do the thing. So Richard started testing this for people, and it kind of worked. You know, this is kind of working now. Okay, that's interesting. So that's part of, I'm telling Richard's story, but that's the journey, you know, that's the journey of that thing. It's a new idea of how to do a piece of mind reading magic, but it really depended on the audience's reaction if they were going to, you know, go with it or fall for it, depending on how you want to do it. And it worked. What's the latest votes?
The latest votes, I've shown it to one other person, and it fooled them. So I'm doing okay. But you know, we've yet to prototype it, to get it out there on stage and really try. And that's when it gets a little bit scary. But yeah, I'll let you know how it goes.
Okay.
Here's a question, and a couple of folks asked this, so I'll try to sort of paraphrase it together. And it's also something that I noticed in the book. You have folks that will do something unique and new and different, and then suddenly everybody's doing it. Like that's it not that it gets watered down, but it gets passed down, maybe, in a sense.
Sometimes watered down too.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know what the method is. Like, when do you pass down your material? Will you, it's sort of like a king picking their son. I mean, who the next leader will be, because I know that the tricks and illusions and all that are very, very closely guarded. Will you choose to pass those down, or will somebody have to break into the museum?
I'll tell you my story, but then Richard will continue and tell you about magic books and why there's so many magic books. He'll tell you why magicians give their secrets in books. My secrets are on the moon. I etched into discs with my friends at Arc Mission Foundation, who they etch into nickel discs. Not microfiche, but nanofiche, tiny little, you're able to see it with a microscope. So you get lots of information. Wikipedia ends up being this big, all Wikipedia on this form. All my secrets are on these discs, which were blasted off and landed on the moon. Actually, they crash landed on the moon. So every day I walk out, and I look at every night, I walk out and I see the moon. I see my stuff is literally on the moon. So someday, if you have a metal detector, next time you're on the moon, and a microscope, you can find my secrets. And what's interesting, what's really great, is this book actually is being transferred onto this these nickel discs. And nickel lasts for 1 billion years; it doesn't degrade, the element of nickel. So this book and the secrets are going to land on the moon later this year. Hopefully a softer landing, so it'll be easier to find. So If you can't find a
Wow.
copy of the book, you can go to the moon and read the book.
All right. I don't know what you guys heard, but I heard road trip. That's what I just heard right now.
Getting more and more possible. Richard, talk about not about me, talk about why magic is published in an amazing scale. Go.
Yeah, I mean, so magicians, a bit like scientists, they have this incredible literature. I mean, books dating back hundreds of years,
Yes.
thousands of journal articles and so on. And David has this colossal collection of that literature. And in a sense, they're like scientists because, as I say, because they are going out and doing experiments night after night. And those experiments have to work every single night. You have to fool the audience and have to give them this magical experience. And once you've done that, you then write up your little experiment. And if it's in a book, other people are able to then perform that themselves. I think in terms of copyists and so on, what's interesting is that if you perform it again and again and again, you get a deep understanding of it. You have authenticity. You know each nuance, each move, each beat of that. And then other people will come along and they'll try and copy it, but they can't copy that expertise, that stuff that's so deep grained into the performer. And so you end up with, as you say, a watered down version of it. And it's the difference between seeing a good magician and a great magician, someone who's lived it. I think audiences can smell authenticity. They can smell passion. They can smell that experience. And that's what a copyist will never be able to do. Thank goodness. That's why it's worth seeking out, a legendary performance.
So I think for the audience at home, there's a division. There is magic in books that you can read, and you're not copying magic if you're reading in a book, because it's okay to do that material reading in a book. Then there's magic that is newly invented, that is not published, not in the book. Then it's copying the stuff. In my show, practically everything in the show is newly invented. And if people do my material, they're copying me, and that's not nice. All this stuff in all these thousands and thousands of books, they are totally legal to permission to replicate and do and make their own. So those are the two ways of doing that. And, eventually my things will be not mine anymore, but I'll publish them perhaps, or leave them on the moon. That's right.
Awesome. I don't want to go past the hour because the audience, I don't know if you guys know this, we are pulling this together in 3 different time zones right now. Vegas, New York, Scotland. So the magic of technology, we are able to do this. So then I am a huge fan.
That's amazing.
That.
What you say is an amazing thing.
Isn't it?
Look what we're doing. It's
yes.
Arthur C. Clarke, quote, this is magic. This is indistinguishable from magic. When I was a kid, they had the Dick Tracy wrist radios. You'd see a picture and you talk, ridiculous, come on. And the New York World's Fair, you saw telephones, visual telephones. Wow, really? With push buttons. It wasn't a dial. Yeah. And look what we're doing now. We get all upset when we don't have a good connection. We're doing something really amazing here. This is like a really incredible thing, and we take it for granted now. We complain about it.
I'm still amazed that I can walk into a room and do that. I can flip a switch. Yeah. The lights come on. I'm college educated and I don't know really how that's done. I'm just happy that it's done, and I do appreciate that, and I appreciate this. I love technology is my magic. Like that's what thrills me. But I want to thank you so much. Oh wait, we have a potential last question. What is this? What was DC's first trick he ever learned? Oh, that's you, David Copperfield. What's the first trick you ever learned? My producer was trying to put it in shorthand for me. Okay, can we close out with that for you? What was the first trick you ever learned?
I went to Macy's to find a better ventriloquist dummy. I was not a great ventriloquist as a kid. I thought maybe it was a dummy. So I went to Macy's and Macy's had a magic counter where they also sold ventriloquist stuff. And it was a trick with a coin and a board, and where the coin would vanish. And I gave up ventriloquism. I started doing magic. And ironically, in my museum, because that's the beginning of my story, my journey started at Macy's at this counter where I bought this little coin effect. And right here, can you see this on camera right here? That's the actual counter for Macy's where I started my career.
I love it.
Pretty amazing.
I didn't realize we had that in common. Macy's is where my journey began as a shopaholic. So we share that.
It's about the same.
But I thank you both, Richard and David. Thank you so much for being with us today. This has been really, really wonderful and a lot of fun. And I just want to remind the audience that if you missed anything, the recording of this will be available tomorrow at skepticalenquirer.org. And my thanks to you both. As always, my thanks to Skeptical Inquirer, to the Center for Inquiry, and of course, my producer, Mark Kreidler, who was on it, putting some great links in the chat. And as always, my real and special thanks to you in the audience for sharing your time with us today. My name is Leanne Lord. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you, skeptics out there. You keep us moving forward. You do.
Bye, fellas.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.